introduction. This is the first of a series of speeches on tribe investing. Today is the introduction. Travis Smith.
John, thank you. Once again, I am Travis Smith, and I am the one that is going to change the way you think about investing and building wealth. If you're like most of us, you do what you're supposed to in terms of investing. You contribute to your IRA. If your employer offers a 401k, you put a monthly amount of your salary each way, contributing to that. And if you're lucky, your employer might even offer an employee match, matching a percentage of your contribution into that 401k. And if you're really, really lucky, you might have something called a pension. It's a dying breed. It's a dying breed out there, but that's another way that we invest and build wealth. Some of us even invest in our home. And buying a home is a great way to invest and build wealth. But when you add that all up, will it add up to what you really want to do in retirement? And forget about retirement. Do you really want to wait to realize your dreams until retirement? Well, for most of us, the answer to those questions are no. But it's a good starting point and a foundation. So don't get me wrong. Keep doing what you're doing. All right? Keep doing what you're doing. But as most of you know, I'm a big dreamer. Right? So I almost know for certain what I'm doing with those vehicles, those great vehicles, aren't going to be enough to add up to my big dreams of traveling the world and enabling my family. For those, but the question is, for those of us without large lump sums of money, what other options are there? And so I'll just go ahead and ask the audience here. What other options are there after you've contributed to your IRA, your 401k, or your pension, or you're working towards owning your house? What other things are there? Kevin?
Other real estate investing?
Real estate. Great opportunities. The challenge there, you need a large lump sum investment. But excellent vehicle for building wealth.
Business investing.
Business investing, again, another great area. Equally as scary and most often needs a large upfront investment.
Next to business investing, starting your own business.
Oh, there we go. Starting your own business. Again, what a way to build wealth. Probably the most proven way to build wealth. A little scary and often needs upfront money to do it.
Yeah, surprisingly nobody mentioned stocks, but that's
Stocks, and you're already probably pretty invested in stocks when it comes to your 401k, but you could go to your financial advisor and take a little extra each month out and give it back to your financial advisor. Another one is a franchise, a little less scary because those are best practices that you can build on, but again, you need a lump sum investment. Those are all great ways to build business. And as a team, we could really come up with some great ideas on investing. Today, I want to share with you, I want to introduce to you the power and the results of something called tribe investing. Tribe investing. Today, I'm part owner of a physician medical building, five-story building in Pasadena, California. I have a partnership with Ryan Homes, a national builder, where I buy their model homes and lease them back to them. Fantastic. Last night, I was at a university area commission where I was at a hearing where they voted 11-5 in favor for a project that I'm part of. That's going to be a 7-story apartment building on Lane Avenue across the street from Ohio State. In April, I'm going to celebrate my 40th birthday with my friends and families and loved ones down in Keeneland Racetrack in Lexington, Kentucky, watching a horse that I own called Smarvelous. As most of you that know me, this part of the speech is a little hard for me. It's not easy for me to brag, but it's important for you to know the power and the impact that tribe investing has had on my life and can have on yours. So, Travis, how did this all start? Well, I'm going to tell you. But first, I've got to take you to Patagonia, Chile. All right? 9 years ago, my dad came to me, Papa came to us, my brother, me and my 3 brothers, and guilted us into this fishing trip of a lifetime for 2 weeks in Patagonia, Chile. Now, he said it was going to be his last, maybe his last big trip with all of us. Don't worry, we've been on many last trips with him since. But this trip of a lifetime really was a trip of a lifetime. The trip of a lifetime, the definition of that has changed for me since this trip. A trip of a lifetime used to be maybe a trip that you went on once in your life. Now a trip of a lifetime to me means a trip that changed your life. And this was one of those. After just an amazing time fishing and being in the rivers and streams and lakes and ponds between glaciers and everything else, on the last day of the trip before we went home, my brothers and I sat at a table at a bar in Patagonia, and we had a very familiar conversation. It was one like, you know, we should build a business together. We should do some investments together. And our main motivator was so that we could do trips of a lifetime together. And more importantly, we were thinking about how are we going to do trips of a lifetime with the next generation. Although those conversations were familiar, being on the other end of the world all of a sudden made it a little more urgent. And at that moment, we made one of the most simple, most important, critical steps and decisions any of us had ever made. We decided to open up a joint bank account and to do an automatic deposit. $500 a piece each month. Yeah, 9 years ago, that was a stretch for all of us. That's all we've done, that's all we did, and that's all we've done. Sounds easy, right? No, you guys know better. Even setting up that joint checking account was difficult. Not to mention creating an LLC, an operating agreement, the taxes, vetting and identifying potential investment opportunities. It was downright painful at moments. But reeling those dreams a little closer to our fishing net has been exhilarating. What a wonderful journey. I will share with you on our next speech how we made it from that table in Chile to cheering on our racehorse in Keeneland in Lexington in April. And I'm building a mission and a business around enabling other tribes to do what we're doing. In the meantime, I want to challenge you. Have you ever thought about starting an business, investing with trusted business partners, friends, or maybe other family members? If so, I want you to email me, and I want to make sure you book your next trip to Midday on the day I'm giving my next speech. I want to thank everybody for listening to the introduction of Tribe Investing.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, there's an old story, you've probably heard about it, about two lumberjacks. One was an older gentleman in his mid-50s. He was about 5'8", 140 pounds. The other was in his mid-20s. He was in great shape, about 6'3", and 225 pounds. And they were compensated based upon how much wood they chopped down. And one day, they were out in the woods, and it was around midday. And the younger lumberjack just looked up briefly, and he saw he had compiled a lot more wood than the older lumberjack. And he didn't think anything of it, so he went back to chopping more wood. A couple hours after that, he looked up again, just for a minute, and he saw that the older lumberjack was taking a break. And he was a little perplexed, but he went ahead and he started chopping more wood again. Well, the end of the day rolls around, and the younger lumberjack is finished, and he looks over and he sees the older lumberjack had compiled a pile of wood that was twice as big as his, and he was completely distraught. And he asked the older lumberjack, "How in the world did you do it?" And the older lumberjack looked at him and said, "While you were working tirelessly with your dull axe, I spent 10 minutes every hour sharpening my blade." So fellow Toastmasters and guests, the preparation and practice leading up to our speeches is the equivalent of us sharpening our axe. Today I'm going to talk about 3 different items that can help us leading up to the delivery of our speeches. It's the environment around us, it's the rehearsing, and it's also the extra considerations or the action items that we can take. Regarding the environment around us, it includes the lectern and the audience location. It includes the microphone. Should we use a microphone or not? The room conditions, and also visual aids. So let's start with the lectern and the audience location. The speaking area. You should be familiar with the area in which you're speaking beforehand. Does it have a lectern or not? Because if there's no lectern and you have notes and you have to use your notes out in front of you, it can be a little distracting. And it impedes your hand gestures. So be aware of that. The audience configuration. Even the slightest changes in the arrangement of desks or how the audience is set up can have a big impact on our delivery. If you all remember a couple months ago, for our Toastmasters meeting, all the desks here were pushed to the side. And although it was kind of a minor change, it kind of had a big impact on when you were speaking because it was different. It was kind of a curveball, but in a good way. So minor changes can have a big impact on our delivery. The stage location of the platform, steps, or ramp. Be familiar before you speak. How are you going to get on stage? Because you don't want to fumble around beforehand. It just adds to the confusion. Microphones. Try to be familiar beforehand with the room in which you're speaking. If it's a large room and there are over 100 audience members, you should probably use a microphone. And if you do use a microphone, test it beforehand, because some microphones are more sensitive than others. How softly do you have to speak into it? Or do you have to speak very loudly? You should use a microphone if you're speaking to over 100 people in the room. Or if you're like my father, who's 20 years late in getting hearing aids, you'll probably want to use a microphone. Audiences over the age of 50. Or if it's a dead room and the acoustics are poor, use a microphone. Or if you have a cold or flu or your voice is strained, probably best to use a microphone. The room conditions. Everybody's been in a room in the summertime where it's hot and humid out and really hot and humid in the room. And your audience members are fanning themselves, right? It gets distracting. And the audience members are probably thinking more about maybe their pit stains and they're sweating over what you're saying in the content. So be familiar with that. Lighting. If anyone's been on a big stage before with bright lights, it has an impact because you're not able to make eye contact or you're able to see your audience's facial expressions. A discreet entry for latecomers. So if you can help it, it's probably not ideal to have a door right next to the stage.
Yeah.
We've all been up here when someone's coming late. It's part of the territory, but it's best to have a door somewhere other than the stage. And competitive outside noise. So if there's adjacent rooms nearby that are typically loud, be aware of that and try to adjust if possible. Visual aids. Make sure they're located, for example, a flip chart. Make sure they're located where everyone in the room can see. Even the people in the back row, most importantly, that your writing or your charts on the flip chart are visible. Same goes for PowerPoints. Make sure it's visible. And also, PowerPoints, make sure that when you're speaking, you don't stand in front of the screen so no one can read behind me. Delivering handouts. When's the best time to deliver handouts? Is it at the beginning, the middle, or at the end of the presentation? My experience has been when you hand out a booklet or pamphlets at the beginning, this is what the audience looks like throughout your speech. Right? Look familiar? So be aware, you're likely to lose your audience if you deliver handouts before you talk. Rehearsing the speech. So there's two ways we can rehearse. There's an outline form, and there's also memorizing your speech. The outline form is practicing the ideas and not as much the words. It's more impromptu, more off the cuff, maybe more conversational. I prefer to memorize my speech, and the more you practice it, I feel like the more conversational it becomes. So I'm curious, who prefers actually the outline form and more impromptu? Okay, so about half. Who prefers to memorize? Okay, so there's really no right or wrong way. It's really however you feel comfortable. Prepare a mental draft of this speech. This helps to ensure that your speech flows smoothly. And again, the more you practice your speech, the more efficient and smooth it will become. I read where some professional speakers, they practice a speech before they ever give it in front of an audience up to 50 times, which is incredible how time-consuming that is. For this speech here, I would say I practice between 10 and 12 times. Let me see a show of hands. How many people practice between 5 and 10 times on average? For typical, okay. How many more than 10? 10 to 15?
When I can.
Okay.
Again, yeah.
It's, right? It's, with family and work, it's hard to find the time. Finish each rehearsal session. So when you're practicing and you mess up, and we all do, don't stop there and start over from the beginning. Acknowledge where you made the error and finish the speech all the way through, and then go back and correct it. Add improvements gradually. So, for example, if you wanted to improve, let's say, the pace of your speech and your voice inflection, instead of doing both at once, master the pace first, and then move on to the voice inflection. Arrange for feedback. Whether it's through a spouse, a friend, family, But what a great platform we have here at Toastmasters, right? Just last week, I wish he was here today, Dave Nickel gave a great speech. That was practice for a presentation he was going to give at his church. I think it was yesterday. So I'm anxious to see how he did. But I bet he did better because he gave a speech here beforehand at Toastmasters.
Yes. Get to the point, and the speech title is Indian Cooking Simplified. One of the most common myths is that Indian cooking is hard, very spicy to eat, and your body cannot handle the spices. Pavran will simplify Indian cooking and walk through some commonly used ingredients in Indian cooking, the role of spices, and how you can use spices in your daily cooking. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Pavran.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests. I love cooking, and I try several ingredients in my cooking. So the more you cook, you actually get more experience with what you're cooking, what are the ingredients, and kind of understand the chemistry behind cooking. Cooking is all about, the ingredients is all about chemistry, right? There are several chemical reactions that happen that cause a certain effect when you taste. And then there are more things that happen when you digest and the day after also. So in different, mostly predominantly in tropical countries, you will see the use of spices more, and actually it is more hot. So there is a difference between hot and spice, right? So when you say spice, there are several ingredients, spices I'll go through. But when you say hot, that is chili hot, that is the cayenne pepper hot. So you can mix both or don't mix both because they are different. For Indian cooking, let me go through the typical ingredients that are there that people typically use. So the first one is cardamom. So if you see, I don't know how many people are aware of cardamom. This is one of the spices that you can basically use in anything. Typically you can use, even boil it in water and drink it also. You have this aroma to it, and it doesn't, it's like drinking green tea, it has that tinge. So, here, this is the actual original form of black pepper. Right now here, we are all used to, cutting the sachet and actually using that. But this is the actual original form. At the same time, try to use the original form of the actual ingredients. So one of the things is mustard seeds. This is the actual, so when you actually go into the store and cut open the sachet, this is the real form of the mustard seeds. The natural form. Try to use that natural form. Let's say, what else? So this one, this is cinnamon. I'm sure a lot of people know about cinnamon. And the other specific, one of the major advantages you have is try to use turmeric. Turmeric is one of the anti-inflammatory. So if you use it with this new mechanization and modernization and using a lot of chemicals in our body for whatever reason. So if you use turmeric, it will actually, that's a natural anti-inflammatory. So try to put it in everything that you can. What I typically do is, my kids have grown up here, so they are not accustomed to eating more Indian food. They are more accustomed to eating Western food that they get in daycares, and that's how they got used to it. So I try to add a little bit of this one, little bit of that one, so that they get taste. And also, that's where from a health perspective, it is better for them. And ginger and garlic, don't forget them. They are very good. So now you have, this is the framework, kind of Indian cooking works in. So let's see how, let's see the commercial product that you get out of these. So the other thing is, I'm talking about heart. You saw the spices, now you are seeing what causes burn. So, when people say it's spicy food, because typically most of the restaurants or places you eat, they mix both. So your spice and your pepper gets added. That's where you feel the burn. You can separate them, so you don't feel the burn. And if you, I would prefer green peppers because green and it's more it's healthier than red pepper. But red pepper has its own health advantages too. So the typical one you have is this is created for Europeans. Primarily, this came from Britishers. If you talk to an Indian and ask curry powder, they would not even know about a curry powder because there is nothing like a curry powder. Because everything is a curry, or you create that powder based on the ingredients that I showed you before. So that's, and then the other commercial item you see is garam masala. These are the ingredients that you go with. It's all combinations that you're taking. And then the other one is sambar. So there are different ingredients. Now if you see, this is a different tinge. So you have seen these three commercial ingredients, and you saw the actual real ingredients, right? So now what I urge you is, if you are a starter, if you're starting out trying to experiment with things, you are better off using one of these commercial products and try to add in things that you would like. So the taste would be different. That's how you get used to it. If you are an intermediate one, I would recommend, at least from a health perspective, at least try a turmeric, ginger, garlic, and cinnamon. Those are very healthy for you. Try to add, and if you are advanced, then you have the ingredient list. You can create a new fusion cuisine for yourself and create your own new company. Thanks. Yeah, that is my final remark. Thank you very much.